So this is going to be your online tutorial for making sketchbook pages. This is or making your sketchbook, but this is part one. Like, it's called making pages, or putting the pages together and creating your binding. So we have to create our sketchbooks in 2 steps. The first step, of course, getting the pages together, and the second step will involve the binding. You do need to be very careful, and you need to take your time. This is a mock lesson, which means that I would not expect for you to have all these materials at home, but I want you to get used to the processes for me teaching you over video, or like through a video like this, or through a Zoom meeting or something along those lines, so that you can kind of get an idea of what to expect. So you should have already looked over your instructions. These instructions look a little different because they're not the e-learning version. And then also, because I have other supplies available in class, I won't be using the tools that you would use at home. I would tell you about alternatives, and I'll do that in this video just to kind of pretend like maybe you're at home and you need to figure out whatever project it would be. Again, to be clear, I would not do a project that's this ambitious with you at home. I would expect that you're drawing in your sketchbooks, which we're about to make, so that you have paper at home if you need it. And I would expect that you're using our art supplies. So whatever art supplies we have, I would make our lessons work with those art supplies. So you should have already read over your guide, as I was saying. At the top, it tells you your supplies that are needed. So for this sketchbook assignment, and you're going to be following along in class and creating your pages based on this instructional. So if there's something that you don't understand, feel free to go back and watch it again. I would just be very clear on your instructions. So you need 15 sheets of paper. So I have these 15 sheets of paper. I should already have them separated out for you. If you want to count them to make sure the number is correct, then you're welcome to do that. Or you can just assume that yes, it is correct. You'll be folding them anyway, so you'll count them along the way as you go. I can always give you more paper if needed. You need a wooden tool, so that is the next thing on the list. Now at home, you wouldn't have a wooden tool, so I would, let's say I was doing this for an at-home assignment, then I would say you need to maybe use like a spoon, like the back of a spoon or something in your kitchen. Glue. So you would need, you're going to have a glue stick at home. That's one of your supplies that you're supposed to purchase until I can purchase one for you. So you would need to use a glue bottle for class, and I would, again, a glue stick would not work for this sketchbook binding, so that's applicable to this, but just so you know, you should have glue at home. That's one of your supplies. I need 3 binding clips, so that's part of my supplies. I'm getting all my supplies together, and I would recommend that you do this at home. Like, when you're looking through your instructions, I'm going to list the supplies that you need. Go ahead and get them all in front of you so that you can make sure you can just work on your project. You need 2 to 3 paper towels, so I've got those here, and then you need a pencil for writing your name. I don't have anything like that, but let me grab it super quick. And what I'm doing, I just grabbed a dry erase marker because it'll make it short and sweet and keep us moving on this video. All right, so my first step, I'm gonna just read through my steps, and this is going to be very typical of the steps that I will give you for a project. So for example, it says fold sheets in half, 1 sheet at a time. I need to tell you that I'm not going to give you an instruction that is not important for a project. Like, it's not going to be just a way for me to fill in words. I'm going to be giving you instructions because they're necessary to get a good result in the end. So you'll take your page. So this is your page. I just have one right now. You want to turn it vertically like this. And then if you struggle with folding, the way that I like to teach folding is that you want to go corner to corner. So I'm going to bring my corners together to kind of meet them up, and then I'm going to align it actually in the center. So I use my fingers to kind of stop it, and if I do the center, then it's going to balance out both corners. I place my finger in the center like this. I press down on the table in the center, and then I push forward with my hand. From the side that I'm holding, the open side, toward the fold, I push out. So that way, when I push out like that, I crease everything in the right way. Like, it's not wonky, one side's folded weird, different from the other. So you're gonna do this for 15 pieces of paper. Again, right now what I'm doing, hopefully you can see, but I'm using my fingernails to kind of stop and find that middle that center, I'm aligning my corners, and then I'm just wiping straight across to flatten that fold. I will make that fold more creased here in a bit. Again, for 15 sheets. Now, I'm not gonna do this for 15 sheets because it's a video and that would be forever long. And I'm not fancy enough with videos to like import it into something and then speed it up in this point. So what I'm gonna do is about 5 to 8 sheets. That way, if somebody comes in like close to the end of the semester, I can just hand them a sketchbook to use, and so they have that on hand. All right, and that's what this one will be used for. So I'm gonna do about half of what you guys are doing here. And you will be getting a grade, by the way. I should talk about your grade. Your grade will be based on your craft. Craft is a vocab term in art, and it's not like arts and crafts. What it means is how clean and how neat you are with your work. So here we go. I'm doing another one. And then this is gonna be my last one. All right, so what I've done is I have folded all of these pages. I'm gonna look at my next step. It says use your wooden tool, or of course, if you are using a spoon or something at home, that's what you would use. So you're just gonna substitute the instructions. If it feels confusing, go back and look at your supplies. Where did I give you liberty for a substitution? So it says use a wooden tool, not the comb end, to crease the corners. So what that means is I'm gonna find, this is my fold, I'm gonna take this like curved end, and I'm gonna, and you could do this with the back of a spoon, and I'm gonna flatten all the way along the crease. So for all of you right now in class, you're gonna take that and you're gonna flatten that crease out. And I'm gonna do that for every single page, taking the time to make a really sharp, like I'm kind of pressing down like this with my finger, pressing down and going over the top of the fold. I want that fold, and I'm making sure the folds are going the same direction when I stack them back. I want that fold to be super sharp, because that is gonna make my pages stay together better in the long run. These pages, or these sketchbooks really look great in the end. Like they work, like they're very functional and they hold up. It's kind of a nice thing to have, and kind of fun to be able to make your own book. This is what's called a glue binding, and there are all kinds of book bindings. If you go on to Drawing 1, you'll make another sketchbook, and in that class you will actually sew your binding. I think Miss Genter, she also sews her bindings for her intro classes, but for sake of time, and because again I had purchased all my supplies before e-learning, I'm gonna go ahead and do it this way. All right, so once I'm done, you see these are my pages. They're all stacked, they're all aligned, folds are nice and clean. These things matter, this kind of craft matters. It says stack papers on top of each other, not inside of each other. So I'm not taking one page and putting like the other one inside. Nope, I'm stacking them all. So like here's one folded page, it's stacked on top of the next folded page, and all the folds are on the same side. It says tap creased edges on table, just like this, so they are flat on the surface. This is to align all of those creases. Now I'm on to step 5. Step 5 is, it's like, we'll call it 4B because it's another step 4. It says slide a binder clip down on each side so that the clip is 1 to 2 inches from the table. So what I've got right now, and there's visuals for you, so if you haven't looked at the guide, you'll want to do that, because I mean, if you could do that or just watch this video again just to be sure, because you should be doing this along with me. So I'm going to start out at the top. And then one method for kind of sliding the binder clips, and you'll see that this is important, I'm gonna just kind of like take it from the top where it's thinnest, and then I'm gonna slide it down 1 to 2 inches from the bottom. I'm gonna bring it out just a little bit from that edge, and then leave it just like this. So when I say bring it out, I mean like there's a little tunnel there from between the binder clip and the pages. That's a good thing to get in practice doing. So I'm gonna do that on both sides. So I have 2 different binder clips. And I've done the one side of my sketchbook, and now I'm going to do the other side. I'm starting out at the top, and I'm just going to move that clip all the way around until it's 1 to 2 inches, leaving a little space between like the inside of the clip and where it touches the page. Next it says write your name and period across the sketchbook. Well, I mean, again, you're following the instructions today because I want to see that you can get to the end result doing an e-learning lesson. So I'm going to go ahead and write my name, Mrs. M. I'll put period 1, like this. I mean, I did it in marker, that's totally fine because you're going to end up, doesn't matter if you do it front or back, it doesn't honestly matter if you use a marker, you just want to be careful that it doesn't bleed through. But what I'm going to end up doing is putting a cover on the outside pages anyway, so that brown marker doesn't really matter. Okay, so next it says flip over and double check creased edges, that creased edges are flat, like right here, that this is flat and not like curved or kind of janky. And it says, and there is a slight fanning. So that means that the pages, again, there's a close-up picture of it in your guide, but that means the pages are kind of fanned out. So my expectation is if you're doing e-learning and I provide 2 different resources for you, that means a written resource and then also a video like this, that you will do the work of reviewing both of them in order to get to a strong end result. If you're not using the resources that I give you and I'm taking the time to make them, then you're not working to the best of your ability, and in that case it will affect your grade. All right, it says, number 7 says squiggle glue along the creases going halfway across. So I'm only gonna go halfway across the creases. I've got my glue bottle here, and I'm gonna do a squiggle of glue. By the way, I would be doing this demo exactly like I am now in person, and you would probably be about as close as my camera is right now to me, so especially with like social distancing and stuff. So I went halfway with my squiggling, and now it says use your finger to get the glue slightly in between the pages. So that's why we needed it fanned out, because we want the glue to get down inside of there. And so I'm going over the top here with my finger, and this is why I need paper towels. Some of you are gonna love playing with glue, and some of you are probably gonna hate it. I'm just wiping off the edges where it's kind of like dripping down, and then I just keep like pulling that glue all the way down. So how do you know if you have enough glue? I'm going to show you. I'm going to do like a close-up. I hope it focuses in and everything works out all right with that. So let me see if I can show you. So when you have enough glue, there will be, there will be no holes in the binding. Like you won't be able to see through any dark areas. So I just keep like wiping to get the glue like into the creases. Like, I'll see if I can, on the other side, when I do the other side, I'll see if I can show you where there might be a hole. You know, you're gonna have to just, sorry, I apologize. I am not a production artist, so, you know, my video might be kind of lame, but hopefully I get enough. It says add glue if there's not one smooth coating of glue. And then you repeat the process on the other half. So I'm gonna squiggle glue on the other half of the book. I shouldn't be able to see like little holes where there's no glue on the binding, by the way. Further, I don't need to like have such excessive amount of glue either that like it's spilling over the edge. You've probably gone a little bit far. So if you did that with like the first half, make sure to go over it, you know, getting glue everywhere. Make sure to like let up, I guess, for the second half. Like maybe don't go use so much glue, because you're gonna find it to be pretty annoying that you have to keep wiping it later on before putting it on the drying rack. Yeah, this side I got too much too. So I can't really show you where the holes are. All I can say is just make sure that you do not see any like holes where there's no glue sinking in on the spine. So now it says go back and forth, add glue. Now I'm on my last page. It says important. That's in yellow, so it must be important. It says in the next 2 steps, be sure the binding clip is not pushed all the way into the book, or you will glue the clip to the sketchbook. So what that means is, you know, see there's like a little tunnel right there between the sketchbook and the binding clip, as I mentioned before. I don't want to push it all the way in when I'm gluing, or it will end up gluing to the book. And then it says, slide side binding clips up and over. Do not take them off, or it's really hard to get them back on. So what that means is, now I'm going to take my binding clips, and I'm going to start out with this one, and I'm going to just kind of slide very carefully up and over, and I'm going to go in about 1 inch. It's okay if the bottom of my clip ends up with some glue on it, but I don't want this part to be touching. So I'm leaving a tunnel so that this part is not touching the spine. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Up and carefully over. Remember, your sketchbook is going to be even thicker than mine because you're going to have more pages, so that's going to be harder to accomplish. All right, it says add the third binding clip to the middle of the book. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. There we go, there's my third binding clip. Again, it's not touching the spine. It says slide your finger along the edge and wipe on paper towels to remove excess glue. So when you put these binding clips on, it's gonna squeeze out all the excess glue. And it needs to be wiped off, because if it is not wiped off, you will end up dripping onto other people's books. And that's not cool, because then they're gonna have big splotches that they have to deal with, or it could make them stick to other people, that kind of thing. So you might be saying, what do? I'm just wiping on paper towels over here, by the way. That's where that is. I just didn't want to get on my book, so I put it off to the side. So you might say, well, what do I do if there's a ton of glue under my binding clip? Just push your binding clip off to the side, wipe it off, and then put the binding clip back. I went in about 1 inch on the sides, on both sides, and then the middle, the center one is like right in the center. So I'm just kind of scooting those off for a minute, because this one has a lot of excess glue, and just wiping it off. Once it's really clean, the last steps, it says, do not push the binding clip handles down. So these, leave them just like this. If you glue them down, sticking them like onto the drying rack could end up, or if you flip them down, you could glue them to the drying rack, or you could end up gluing them to the book. It says leave them sticking out and slide book and drying rack. So you're gonna go take your book to the drying rack, and I'll show you in the classroom, and then you're just gonna slide the book straight in with the binding facing out. Now, as I'm looking, I'm seeing that some of the glue needs to be wiped in some of my creases. Like maybe now I've wiped off too much for some of it, and I'm just gonna go back over with my finger and just make sure that it's really done well. So that is how you make pages. This is part 1. When we come to class next time, you will take this and we will make a cover for it to go over the top of it, and you know, so your research that you used for the second half of today, I believe we're gonna be doing some of that for the second half of today. You can use that for your cover, or we may just wait on that, do that another day, we'll see. So thanks for listening. A lot of times the videos will be shorter than this, but this had a lot of steps to it. Again, it's very important that you use all the resources that I have listed for you, and you can always send me a text or a remind if there is something that like you're confused about or you don't know what to use. Just remember also that it's an expectation that you have all of the supplies that I've listed, that I've provided for you, and then that I listed that you need to purchase, and you'll be good to go. So yeah, I will follow up with you in class.